Good morning. This is Rashad Mitchell coming to you live from my YouTube channel as I continue on my part series. The week that was college football history review, the 1973 college football season. New season going to be talked about, recap during this part series, and hope you enjoy the journey whenever you get a chance to watch the video. But anyway, 1973 college football season was the year of era, big play, Big Ten's vengeful vote, and something for Joey. The 1973 season may best be remembered for a game played on the last day of the calendar year. It was a classic New Year's Eve Sugar Bowl matchup pitting undefeated Alabama and undefeated Notre Dame in the first meeting between the tradition-rich schools. The game featured coaching legends like Bear Bryant of Alabama and Ara Parseghian of Notre Dame, and two distinct styles of play. The Crimson Tide already had wrapped up the UPI National Championship behind a wishbone attack that had crushed opponent after opponent. Alabama's biggest rout was 77-6 over Virginia Tech in a game in which the offense set modern NCAA records for total yards, 828, and rushing yards of 743. Continuing with their do not make mistakes but let defense win game offense, Notre Dame entered the game in an enviable position as a talent-laden underdog. With the help of an adventurous late-game play call, a pass from deep in Notre Dame territory, substitute tight end Robin Weber, the Fighting Irish kept possession to edge Alabama for that AP half of the national championship. It was the ninth ever meeting of undefeated teams in a bowl game and Notre Dame's ninth national title. Brilliant seasons by Ohio State and Michigan ended in controversy after a 10-10 tie could not separate the rivals. The Rose Bowl bid was determined by a vote of athletic directors as dictated by Big Ten rules. The vote went to the Buckeyes 6-4, despite their presence in the Pasadena the year before. Michigan cried a foul, saying that the main reason Ohio State got the nod was the broken collarbone suffered by Wolverines quarterback Dennis Franklin, which made Michigan less likely to win in Pasadena. It certainly was a factor. Of course, Michigan ignored the fact that the Buckeyes were ranked higher all year, occupying the nation's top spot for 8 weeks, had tied their rivals in Ann Arbor. Michigan State's Buckeye vote exacted revenge for Michigan's having worked at keeping the Spartans out of the conference years earlier. Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue, and Wisconsin joined the Spartans and Buckeyes in voting for Ohio State. If the vote had been 5-5, Michigan would have been the Rose Bowl choice. In the end, the Buckeyes beat Southern California 42-21 to snap the Big Ten's 4-game Rose Bowl losing streak. Oklahoma was put on 2-year probation, no bowls in 1973 or 1974, no television in 1974 or 75, among other penalties for altering quarterback Kerry Jackson's transcript. As soon as their fans and state legislators fought the penalty to no avail. After routing Texas 52-13, Oklahoma gave the game ball to former assistant coach Bill Michaels, who resigned because of the recruiting scandal. Meanwhile, Tom Osborne made his debut as head coach of Nebraska, as Osborne and new Sooners coach Barry Switzer shaped the conference's identity for many years, with Switzer winning or sharing 12 titles in 16 years, and Osborne 14 and 25. Osborne had bigger shoes to fill as new athletic director. Bob Devaney had won 101 games in 11 years at Nebraska with 2 national titles, amid a 33-2 record over his final 3 seasons. USC entered the 1973 season as defending champions as preseason number 1. Troy fell from the top spot with a 7-7 tie against Oklahoma on September 29th and dropped further with a loss to Notre Dame. The Trojans managed their 6-8 Pac-8 title in 8 years, losing to Iowa State. While Penn State was the ace top team yet again, the region's coaches made news. Penn State's Joe Paterno turned down a $1 million offer to jump to the New England Patriots, while Johnny Majors made his debut as head coach at moribund Pittsburgh. Majors already had beaten the Nittany Lions in recruiting tailback Tony Dorsett, who had a brilliant freshman year. Now, Tony Dorsett was the most dynamic player in the Northeast, possibly the country, but he would not become a factor in the race for the Heisman Trophy until he aged a bit. Now, Penn State tailback John Cappelletti won the honor, and when early favorites fell to the curb and became the first player from that school to do so, his emotional acceptance speech, which ended with the recognition that his young brother Joey's fight against leukemia had been a great inspiration to him, made the attendees shed a few tears. It was a landmark moment for a new softer society's acceptance of grown men crying in public. Oklahoma State guard Deacon Stevens did his best imitation of the infamous 1954 Cotton Bowl gaffe by Alabama's Tommy Lewis when he jumped from the sidelines to tackle an Iowa State runner on November 24th. Now, Cyclones quarterback Buddy Hartman had broken free and was heading for a score until meeting up with Stevens. Hartman was credited with a 74-yard touchdown, and Iowa State went on to win 28-12. Now, Rice finished with a losing record, but it was not the lack of trying. Against Notre Dame, Iowa's coach Al Conover brought more than 100 local Roman Catholic priests to the game to root for his team. The Owls held the Fighting Irish to 28 points, but the priests must have been on the concession line when Rice had ball, because the sleeping Owls were shut out. In a disturbing episode of disloyalty at Hawaii, quarterback Casey Ortez quit the team in late November due to pressure from defensive players who accused Ortez of poor play because they claimed he had bet against Hawaii. After the Rainbows lost to Pacific 23 on November 24th for their first loss of the season, offensive lineman Cliff LeBoy struck Ortez. And the better news in the West, BYU wide receiver Jay Miller became the second player to nab 100 receptions in a season, and he set a new record for coaches in a game with 22 against New Mexico. Now, the milestones for the 1973 college football season was that Rules Committee first allowed either team to use ball of their choice when in possession. Longest winning streaks entering the season, Southern California won 13 in a row, North Carolina won 8 in a row, and Texas, Oklahoma, and Tampa tied with 7-game winning streak entering the season in 1973. Coaching changes that took place: incoming coach for Arizona Jim Young, Brown John Anderson, Red Parker, Clemson, Sarkis Arcinian, Colorado State, Lee Corso, Indiana, Earl Bruce in Iowa State, Frank Hershey, Kentucky, Weeville, T.W. Alley, Pete Elliott, Miami, Dennis Stoltz, Michigan State, Johnny Vaught, Mississippi, Bob Tyler, Mississippi State, George Welsh, Navy, Nebraska, Tom Osborne, Northwestern, John Pont, Oklahoma, Barry Switzer, Oklahoma State, Jim Stanley, Johnny Rogers, Pittsburgh, Bob Cacciola, Pitts Princeton, Alex Agace, Purdue, Frank Burns, Rutgers, San Diego State, Claude Gilbert, Southern Methodist, Dave Smith, Vanderbilt, Steve Sloan, Wake Forest, Chuck Mills. Now, the AP preseason poll looked like this for the top 20. Number 20 was Texas Tech, number 19, North Carolina, number 18, Houston, number 17, North Carolina State, 16, Louisiana State, Florida, number 15, Arizona State, 14, Auburn, 13. And there was a tie for the 11th spot between Colorado and Oklahoma. Number 10, UCLA, 9, Tennessee, 8, Notre Dame, 7, Penn State, 6, Alabama. And the top 5 was number 5, Michigan, number 4, Nebraska, number 3, Texas, number 2, Ohio State, number 1, Southern California. Let's get into it. September 8th, 1973, the season started on that date between number 4, Nebraska against number 10, UCLA, and Nebraska beat UCLA 40-13. Huskers replaced coaching legend Bob Devaney, Heisman Trophy winner Johnny Rodgers, and Outland Trophy winner Rich Glover without missing a beat, because Coach Tom Osborne's era began with whipping the Bruins that avenged opening loss of 1972. Nebraska I-back Tony Davis ran for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns, while quarterback Steve Runte, in relief of injured starter quarterback David Home, completed 9 of 11, 105 yards. It was responsible for touchdowns, rushing, and throwing. Huskers cornerback Randy Borg added a 77-yard scoring run with punt return for a 14-0 fourth quarter lead. The Bruins hung tough early as halfback Kermit Johnson scored a touchdown on an 8-yard run and set up another with a 43-yard scamper. But being UCLA's inability to throw, 2 for 9 for 20 yards, made the comeback unlikely. Now, the AP poll is September 10th. Have this long game for September 8th. Get into the games that were played, full slated games that were played on September 15, 1973. Here's the AP poll for September 10th. Number 20 was Texas, 19 North Carolina, 18 Houston, 17 North Carolina State, 16 UCLA, Louisiana State, number 15. Florida, number 14, Arizona State, 13, Auburn, 12, 11 was Oklahoma, The top 10 round as this: number 10 Colorado, 9 Tennessee, number 8 Notre Dame, number 7 Penn State, 6 Alabama, 5 Michigan, 4 Texas, 3 Ohio State, number 2 Nebraska, number 1 Southern California. So here we go. September 15th, 1973. Bowling Green beat Syracuse by a score of 41-14. It's still week 1. Has to be. It has to be week 1, I believe. The full set of games for week 1. Anyway, Bowling Green beat Syracuse 41-14. Coach Ben Schwartz Walder's final season at the helm of Orangemen began on a sour note as Mac Power Falcons soared. Linebacker John Villapiano was defensive star for Bowling Green, piling up 19 tackles, interception, and a forced fumble, while tailback Paul Miles appeared headed for third straight 1,000-yard season with 113 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Syracuse was shut out until fourth quarter when wingback Brian Hamilton caught 2 touchdown passes. Falcons had wide yards discrepancy, 406 yards to 162 yards. Next, Pittsburgh played against Pittsburgh played against Georgia, and it ended in a 7-7 tie. Coach Johnny Majors was as close as 34-yard field goal from Sterling's successful debut at Pitt, yet he could not have been too upset. Tie and afterwards was good building block for a program that had registered 1-10 record in 1972. The dazzling freshman tailback Tony Dorsett made his debut too, rushing for 101 yards and drawing defense away from fake by quarterback Bill Daniels that allowed Daniels to romp 17 yards to open score for the game. Now, Georgia quarterback Andy Johnson nodded matters in second quarter as he capped a 53-yard drive with 4-yard keeper. Now, neither team came close to scoring in the second quarter until Panthers' final 64-yard drive ended on a missed attempt by freshman kicker Carson Long. South Carolina defeated Georgia Tech 41-28. Quarterback Jeff Grants shone in New Year offense as he threw 2 touchdown passes, ran for 111 yards and leading the Gamecocks. Grants' 2 touchdown runs allowed South Carolina to build a 21-0 second quarter lead, while defensive back Mel Baxley's 100-yard interception return for a touchdown bumped the lead to 34-7 in the third quarter as they caught Yellow Jackets looking ahead to college football's other USC, the number 1 chosen from Los Angeles. Now, Georgia Tech rushed for 218 yards, threw for 200 yards more, but did most of its damage during 21-point fourth quarter spree that only made score look more respectable. The battle of 2 top 20 teams, number 10 Colorado played against number 15 Louisiana State, as Louisiana State, the number 15 team in the country, beat number 10 Colorado 17-6. Now, LSU quarterback Mike Miley looked every bit worthy successor to quarterback Burt Jones as he hit 7 for 10, 140 yards, and 30-yard touchdown to Jones' brother, wide receiver Ben Jones. LSU defense held Colorado to solo first down in opening half, which went scores as Tigers fared little better. Jones' touchdown catch was opening score, followed by kicker Rusty Jackson's 25-yard field goal. Buffalo scored later in the third quarter on a 37-yard reverse by wingback Larry Ferguson, but would throw it on a 2-point conversion attempt. Unable to throw consistently, Colorado ended his own chances with third interception, matched by only 3 completions, which was returned by linebacker Gary Champagne for the Louisiana State with a 25-yard touchdown. Ohio State beat Minnesota. Ohio State, number 3 team in the country, beat Minnesota 56-7. Chicago Tribune writer Bob Marcus wrote that Buckeyes unleashed so many weapons they should be included in the next round of SALT, meaning strategic arms limitation talks. Ohio State fullback Champ Henson rolled over first of his 3 touchdowns at end of opening drive. And when touted Minnesota halfback Rick Upchurch fumbled ensuing kickoff, the Buckeyes quarterback Cornelius Green scored to put Gophers behind 14-0 before they even ran their first snap. Now, even when Ohio State lined up for late second quarter field goal, its snap was bad, so wingback holder Brian Bass Nagel picked it up and dashed for 5-yard touchdown as time expired on a 35-7 halftime edge. Now, number 5, Michigan beat Iowa 31-7. Butterfinger Iowa lost fumbles in first half, and poor coach Frank Lauderberg had to be happy that his defense held Michigan to kicker Greg Lantry's 39-yard field goal after bobbling opening kickoff. After all, Lauderberg had lost 63-7 and 31-0 in his first two cracks as Wolverines coach Bo Schembechler. Michigan rolled for 440 yards rushing, but their coaches had promised to open up his attack. That plan didn't work as quarterback Dennis Franklin was intercepted in second quarter by Hawkeyes defensive back Earl Doughty, was scrambled 47 yards for Iowa's only touchdown, so Wolverines went back to grinding it, and by game's end could count touchdown drives of 80, 76, 75, and 66 yards. Tailback Chuck Heater gained 133 yards rushing, scored first quarter touchdown for Michigan. Northwestern beat Michigan State 14-10. Oklahoma beat Baylor 42-14. Oklahoma was number 11 team in the country. Tenure of Sooners coach Barry Switzer began appropriately with easy win as Oklahoma rushed for 480 yards, scoring 3 times in the first quarter and twice again in the second quarter. Sooners clobbered Baylor early. Oklahoma quarterback Steve Davis rushed for 110 yards. Halfback Joe Washington moved to 113 yards. Fullback Wayman Clark added 113 yards more, while Davis and Washington each scored 2 touchdowns. Turning ball over 5 times. Bears had trouble moving their offense, but managed to get passing touchdowns from quarterback Neil Jeffrey and Robert Armstrong in the second half. Kansas beat Washington State 29-8. Colorado State beat Brigham Young 21-13. While Rams put off upset, outcome was not too shocking, with BYU quarterback Gary Sheedy out with injury. Game was scoreless at halftime and 7-7 after 3 quarters until kicker Dave Duke had 2 field goals for Cougars. Colorado State routed with 14 points, converting Flea Ficker. Quarterback Jan Stubbe passed that into flat to wide receiver Willie Miller, lateral to the running back Tom Wallace for a 45-yard gain. Interception by linebacker Greg Battle. Rams scored 4 fourth-quarter touchdowns on short runs by running backs Kim Jones, Scott McLaughlin. Second on day. Wide receiver Jay Miller was leader of BYU offense. Arizona State, the number 13 team in the country, beat Oregon 26-20. Oregon started and finished well, but had plenty of problems in between. Ducks shut out high-flying Arizona State in the first quarter, and then grabbed 14-7 second quarter lead on a 13 touchdown run by tailback Rick Kane, an 8-yard scoring pass from quarterback Novel Turner to wide receiver Bob Palmer. Sun Devils took control for balance of first half and most of second half, scoring 3 touchdowns straight, including scoring pass of 39 yards and 70 yards by quarterback Danny White. Oregon had last gasps as Palm caught his second touchdown pass with 44 seconds remaining and then recovered an onside kick. Ducks reached Arizona State 28-yard line before time expired. Penn State, the number 7 team in the country, beat Stanford 20-6. That sound of bones crunching run and ears of Stanford quarterback Mike Borilla, who was sacked 7 times by the Lions defense. Penn State forced Stanford to settle for minus 8 yards rushing. Linebacker Doug Allen put Penn State on board first with block punt for safety. Our next Stanford possession, defensive back Jim Bradley, who earlier had interception at Lions goal line to stop Cardinals' threat, scooped up fumble by tailback Scott Laidlaw to set up a 14-yard touchdown catch by Mount Nittany Lion wide receiver Gary Heyman. Penn State quarterback Tom Schumann tossed the 2 touchdowns but tailback John Capillette was held to 76 yards rushing, although he set up his own 2-yard touchdown run with a 17-yard pass, his first ever completion to wide receiver Chuck Hurd. Battered Boiler climbed off campus to throw late 8-yard scoring pass to tight end Glenn Stone. And finally, number 1 Southern California shut out Arkansas 17-0. Trojans opened up the defense of their national championship with the first shutout of Arkansas in 73 games. Young Porkers hung tough despite new USC quarterback Pat Hayden sparking his troops to 452 yards of offense. The Trojans had led only 7-0 at the third quarter because a pair of lone touchdowns by wide receiver Lynn Swann had been wiped out by penalties. Arkansas defense keyed on tailback Anthony Davis, who struggled for his 96 yards with 1-yard touchdown. Pat Hayden completed 12 of 20 for 143 yards and tied clinching fourth quarter touchdown run of 14 yards. Arkansas led by tailback Dickie Morton's 73 yards rushing, 12 carries, drove twice before missing 2 field goals in the first half. So that concludes a look at Week 1. Games that are played on September 8th and September 15th, 1973. Let's get into the AP poll. The top 20. Tied for the 20th spot is Bowling Green, Missouri. Number 19, Colorado. 18, UCLA. 17, Oklahoma State. 16, Houston. 15, Florida. 14, North Carolina State. 13, Arizona State. 12, Auburn. 11, Louisiana State. 10 was Tennessee. Oklahoma 9. 8, Notre Dame. 7, Penn State. 6, Texas. Michigan. 5, 4, Alabama. Number 3 was Ohio State. 2, Nebraska. And number 1, Southern California. So that's it right there for the week that was college football history review. The overview of the college football season 1973, as well as the games that were played on September 8th and September 15th of 1973. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the channel. Do a video of the Smag 2 tomorrow. Until then, talk to you soon.